Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and fun fact about me, I used to believe that suffering equaled righteousness. Every moment of discomfort or pain was a temporary sacrifice that I would one day be blessed for by God, even if that day would not come until after I died. And the reason for death possibly being heat stroke. I used to wear religious garments, colloquially known as Mormon underwear, or sometimes, as an insult, magic underwear. To clear this up, Mormons or members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints do not believe that their garments hold magical properties per se. We'll go over more about where that came from later, but they wear these garments as a reminder of the sacred covenants that they make in their temples. And you are essentially supposed to be wearing them 24/7, which most garment wearers do, and only take them off for the 3 S's: shower, sweat, and sex. Although I have heard rumors of people leaving them on during intercourse, and I try not to think about that, but it is not recommended. You also don't have to wear them while working out or going swimming, but some people do, which is a choice. For yeast infections. I knew some members that only wore them when they went to the temple, and some who don't wear them at all. This is due to the ever-changing doctrine and style of temple garments. In 1842, they looked like this: a onesie that went from your wrist to your ankles, not a lick of skin showing below the neck. And then in 1979, they changed the one piece into a 2-piece garment that you see members wear today. These also come in different styles and fabric blends, but the idea is that the top is always cap-sleeved and the bottoms usually go down to your knees. And I am happy to announce that knee-length shorts are back in style again thanks to the Y2K resurgence, and my former Mormon self would have been thrilled. As long as capri pants don't come back, am I right? Holy shit. Fashion is always changing, but modern garment lengths have remained pretty constant for the last few decades, at least until now.
Okay, today guys, I have the review for the new garment top. It is called the Women's Dry Stretch. Starting off with fabric, this is 88% polyester and 12% spandex. This top is almost identical, in my opinion, to the Caranessa, whatever that's called. The Caranessa is 98% polyester and 2% spandex. The biggest difference for me in this fabric is that this new garment is a lot lighter than the other one, the Caranessa. Next, we're going to talk about the style.
First off, this woman seems sweet, and I do not know her personally. However, in the first few seconds, I'm already annoyed. She's doing a product review of temple garments as if she's reviewing a new Chanel lipstick. That's weird, because the Mormon church can't have it both ways. They can't say ridiculing or making light of sacred clothing is highly offensive to Latter-day Saints, and also have influencers publicly reviewing and making light of said garments. I find that annoying. Why are we treating something that is supposed to be deeply personal like a Shein haul? Not to mention she does also joke about these new garments in other videos as well, which again, I don't find this offensive, but the church is telling other people not to make light of them, and then members do this. I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy. Also, they are not available in the US. She had to get these from South Korea, and they won't be available here until the fall. So I saw several comments of other women asking if she could buy them some, and someone commented that it created a black market for garments, which I thought was funny. Anyways, I think you should be allowed to joke about whatever you want, just pointing out the contradictions. I don't blame non-members for being confused about the sanctity of these garments.
So I have on a tank top that is almost identical to where the garment is going to fit on me personally. Everybody is different. It's going to fit different. For reference, I am 5'4" and I'm 110 pounds, if that helps. So here, I would say the sleeve is almost, it's like pretty much exactly here. The Caranessa came up like in your armpit. This one I measured is 2 inches lower in the garment, so it's not even in your armpit. This neck, you can't see, but it's actually a lot lower than what the original Caranessa is. It's a lot lower here, and it's a lot lower in the back. The length of the garment itself, the old one, like the Caranessa came like down to here on me. This one is like 2 inches more. It's like right here. And if you want to see what the garment is going to look like kind of generally, this would be it. It can be a lot lower, but besides that, everything that you're seeing here on the arms and everything is kind of what it looks like. These garments will be out for everyone by the end of the year, depending on where you live. You can check online and see when they will come out for you specifically. If you're in the United States, they will not be coming out till the fourth quarter, which is probably not going to be till October or November. Anyway, I can't wait till everyone gets these garments because they really are so amazing, and I'm so happy with all of the changes. Let me know if you guys have any comments, and I'm going to try my best to answer them. And I will do a review on the other ones later.
Do you notice something odd about this product review? Maybe it's because we can't see the product, and I do think she is wearing them, but it's not normal for a review even of underwear. Underwear influencing is definitely a thing. You don't even have to be wearing it. You can just show what it looks like. For reference, these are what the new garment tops look like, and as you can see, they do not have cap sleeves, but are now a thick tank top. So they've shaved a few inches off. What's the big deal? Glad you asked. Let me tell you. First, let's look at some comments as a temperature gauge. Ooh, I can't wait for my apology from the leaders who kicked me out of girls' camp for rolling my sleeves. It's almost like garments have always been a way to control women's bodies and not actually inspired. I remember at 14 wearing a tank top like the one in the video to a friend's house and her mom telling me I needed to cover up or leave. It was summer in Vegas. Hey, that happened to me too, except it was my own mom. Love you, mommy. Weeping for my youth. If you were a youth in the Mormon church in or before the early 2000s, you know. We were there. We are all weeping for our youth. The absolute shame and public lashing that you would receive in the town square for wearing something sleeveless was insane. You might as well be naked. This is the reason that the term porn shoulders was coined as a joke, because they were not to be seen. We had to painstakingly sew in cap sleeves to our prom dresses, and many women had to spend thousands of dollars altering their wedding dress to fit the LDS garment. Now it seems the other way around, that you alter the garment to fit your clothes. Wearing a size petite, aka extra small, so that you can have some cleave going, some extra thigh showing, rolling them up or pinning them, very common practice.
So I do have it safety pinned here on the back to my garment so that they can stay in place, because I was finding it was sliding back and then showing my garment. So
I didn't do it because I was that girl. I was a rule follower to the letter and was told it was wrong to do by my church. So why am I mad about a seemingly good change? Because of comments like this. I'm so glad the focus of wearing the garment is back on keeping covenants. It was never about modesty. That's hard for a lot of older LDS to hear, but there it is. Garments are not worn to be modesty police. They're a reminder of Christ's presence in our lives. How you dress is on you and your own intuition. If you understand what the purpose of garments is, the shape doesn't matter. It's symbolic and much deeper than how wide the shoulder is. It's not changing. Originally, they went from ankles to wrist. You just described the fact that they have in fact changed. If you're wondering, this is gaslighting. Gaslighting is not simply lying about something, it is manipulating someone to believe that their entire reality is false, that your lived experience did not happen, you're crazy, you're making it up, and I am going to take that gas and start lighting fires with it.
It was never about modesty?
Bet. On the church website, right now in 2025, it reads, "In our day, the garment encourages modesty, but its significance is much deeper." Yes, the garments encourage modesty, but we don't really care if you're modest or not. That's silly. That's not really the point. If it wasn't about modesty at all, you wouldn't need to mention it. But let's continue reading. For church members who have received the endowment, the garment reminds them of their connection to God, blah, 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 blah. The first presidency of the church has stated that how the garment is worn is an outward expression of an inward commitment to follow the Savior. An outward expression would be a little more outward, wouldn't it? Like something people are allowed to see. Isn't wearing them as underwear the opposite of an outward expression? Food for thought. But when you click on the source for this quote, it just says, First Presidency Letter, October 10th, 1988. Very helpful, thank you. But where is it, and why can't I read it? Well, the church is certainly not known for its transparency, and because linking the letter in its entirety would be way too easy, I had to search for it, and I only found more portions of the letter buried in footnotes on a completely different page of the church website. I still cannot find the entire letter, and here is what more of it reads. Practices Differences frequently observed among the members of the church suggest that some members do not fully understand the covenant they make in the temple to wear the garment in accordance with the spirit of the holy endowment. Members are confused about how to wear their garments because the temple instructions are unclear. Nothing new to see here, as that is still happening. Church members who have been clothed with the garment in the temple have made a covenant to wear it throughout their lives. This has been interpreted to mean that it is worn as underclothing both day and night. The promise of protection and blessings is conditioned upon worthiness and faithfulness in keeping the covenant. Why is there an ellipses after the word night? What did it say? Why did they take it out? Why is the church like this? The fundamental principle ought to be to wear the garment and not to find occasions to remove it. Thus, members should not remove either all or part of the garment to work in the yard or to lounge around the home in swimwear or immodest clothing. Nor should they remove it to participate in recreational activities that can reasonably be done with the garment worn properly beneath regular clothing. When the garment must be removed, such as for swimming, it should be restored as soon as possible. Those are some pretty strict rules about how to wear the temple garment that members followed for decades and have now been disregarded for a more personal approach to wearing it. Just pray about what feels right to you. But we're not done. The principles of modesty, there's that pesky word again, and keeping the body appropriately covered are implicit in the covenant and should govern the nature of all clothing worn. So modesty is implicit in the covenant you make in the temple. You literally covenant to be modest. That's interesting, considering that members are now saying modesty has nothing to do with the covenants you make in the temple, and that has never changed. More on that later. Endowed members of the church wear the garment as a reminder of the sacred covenants they have made with the Lord, and also as a protection against temptation and evil. How it is worn is an outward expression of an inward commitment to follow the Savior. This is where the magic underwear insult comes from, because in the temple, still to this day, you are told that garments are also a physical protection against evil in general. Some people tell Mormon folk tales of people's bodies being unscathed where the garment was during fires or other catastrophic injuries, and that wearing them could literally protect you from harm. And I found proof of someone telling a story like this. This is a 60 Minutes interview from April of 1996 with Bill Marriott, a former CEO of the Marriott Hotels.
Do you wear the sacred undergarments?
Yes, I do. And I can tell you they do protect you from harm.
Really?
I was in a very serious boat accident. Fire. Boat was on fire. I was on fire. I was burned. My pants were burned right off me. I was not burned above my knee. Where the garment was, I was not burned.
And you believe it was the sacred undergarments?
I do, particularly on my legs, because my pants were gone. And my undergarments were not singed.
So this story is hilarious for multiple reasons. One is, it's not hard to believe that every single piece of clothing you were wearing didn't get burned off, and he did suffer serious burns. But because he didn't get burns on his legs above the kneecap, that means something? Okay, Bill. Secondly, this fucking kills me. This is an article from LDS Living, which is a magazine, and it says, when he turned the power on to check the gas gauge, a spark ignited the gas. The explosion rattled windows up and down the lake shore, and the flames enveloped Bill in a fraction of a second. Newspaper reports would claim that he was blown out of the boat, but for Bill, a miracle had occurred. In the midst of the conflagration, he heard a clear voice, "Get out of the boat!" Instead of being immobilized by the shock, he had jumped into the lake. So the boat is exploding. He sees it with his eyeballs. He feels the fire on him, and he credits the Holy Spirit to him jumping into the water instead of just like his body reacting to not wanting to be burnt alive. Everyone's body reacts differently in life or death situations. Not everyone goes into shock, but for everyone else to say, no, there was definitely an explosion and he got blasted out of there is just pretty funny to me, because he definitely still could have been in shock and remembers hearing a voice because he was in shock. I'm not saying people don't hear voices. We're not here to have that debate. But his garments did not protect him from getting burnt. That's just the facts. So
Wowie.
I never personally looked at them that way when I wore them, but I know some people really believed that, and some still do. And this comes straight from the wording in the temple ceremony, which we will go over, but it's also re-emphasized again in this letter. This is from the very top of the church, the prophet and his 2 counselors. Not some random Sunday school teacher, not your mean young women's president, not your boomer bishop. This was the prophet and the first presidency of the church saying this. That's as high up as you can get. Once again, it is not the culture that is problematic, it is the church. So that first presidency letter was from 1988, okay? And the gaslighting isn't starting just now in 2025. In fact, I found a talk written just a decade later by a member of the 70, which is also very high up in church leadership, named Elder Carlos E. Acey, called The Temple Garment. This was published in the Liahona magazine, which is an LDS magazine. This is quintessential Mormon doctrine backtracking. He says, a few years ago in a seminar for new temple presidents and matrons, Elder James E. Faust, then of the Quorum of the 12 Apostles, told about his being called to serve as a general authority. He was only asked one question by President Harold B. Lee, do you wear the garments properly? To which he answered in the affirmative. He then asked if President Lee wasn't going to ask him about his worthiness. President Lee replied that he didn't need to, for he had learned from experience that how one wears the garment is the expression of how the individual feels about the church and everything that relates to it. It is a measure of one's worthiness and devotion to the gospel. There are some who would welcome a detailed dress code answering every conceivable question about the wearing of the temple garment. They would have priesthood leaders legislate lengths, specify conditions of how and when it should and should not be worn, and impose penalties upon those who missed the mark by a fraction of an inch. Such individuals would have church members strain at a thread and omit the weightier matters of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Such individuals meaning the prophet of the church, Ezra Taft Benson, who gave those specific conditions 11 years before you said this. Did he and his 2 counselors and future prophets, Gordon Hinckley and Thomas Monson, miss the mark? Or are we really pretending it's individual members who have made up these restrictions? Ezra probably wouldn't have been happy if he was still alive. He passed away in 1994, just 5 years before this article was published. Then Howard Hunter became president after him with the same 2 counselors. And with a change in leadership often comes a change in the rules. It is very common for leaders to contradict or disavow past leaders' teachings, but instead of being direct about that, because thou shalt not speak ill of the Lord's anointed, they dishonestly credit these now outdated teachings to just random people. Who said that? We didn't say that. You're silly. This is just one example of hundreds of an established doctrine such as garments and the purpose of them being changed, and it's now just a policy. Oh, it wasn't doctrine, that was just policy. Hey, what's the difference? It depends on who you ask. In a recent general conference from October 2023, John Pingree Jr. of the 70 said this.
When seeking truth, it helps to understand the difference between doctrine and policy. Doctrine refers to eternal truths, such as the nature of the Godhead, the plan of salvation, and Jesus Christ's atoning sacrifice. Policy is the application of doctrine based on current circumstances. Policy helps us administer the church in an orderly way. While doctrine never changes, policy adjusts from time to time. The Lord works through his prophets to uphold his doctrine and to modify church policies according to the needs of his children.
Okay, so policy is the application of doctrine based on circumstances, and both of those things come from God and his prophets. So God directs the policy that is created and continually changes it. Got it. General Authority Kevin Hamilton affirms this and says that Jesus Christ dictates the church's policies, and you cannot differentiate between the two.
As I visit with members across the church, I sometimes hear things like, I don't support the church's policy on, and then you fill in the blank. Or, I don't agree with the way the church does this or that. Could I suggest an alternative approach? Substitute the word Savior or Lord or Jesus Christ in place of the church. As in, I don't support the Savior's policy on, you fill in the blank.
The next president and bigot in line for the church, Dallin Oaks, again echoes this teaching in the most recent General Conference from this last October 2024, saying that Jesus changes commandments from time to time, not just policies, and it's not a big deal.
The Lord's commandments are of two types: permanent, like the doctrine of Christ, and temporary. Temporary commandments are those necessary for the needs of the Lord's church or the faithful in temporary circumstances, but to be set aside when the need has passed. Though only temporary, when still in force, these commandments were given to be obeyed.
Dallin reframing the word policy to commandments is interesting to me because I don't know if he's read it, but there's this book called The Doctrine and Covenants that Joseph Smith wrote, which is supposed to be his direct revelations from God, and he writes it in first person as if God is saying it. Here is Doctrine and Covenants, section 29, verse 34. Wherefore verily I say unto you, all the things unto me are spiritual, and not at any time have I given unto you a law which was temporal, neither any man nor the children of men, neither Adam your father whom I created. Behold, I gave unto him that he should be an agent unto himself, and I gave unto him commandment, but no temporal commandment gave I unto him, for my commandments are spiritual. They are not natural nor temporal, neither carnal nor sensual. According to the head honcho in your religion, there is no such thing as temporary commandments. I've heard of people disagreeing with their prophets before. I didn't know you were allowed to disagree with your God. That one is new to me. I was always taught that commandments were eternal and had a deep spiritual meaning, even if we didn't know what that meaning was in this life, because God's ways are higher than our ways. And Oaks is asking the church members to prioritize obedience to every commandment they give without question, like good little cult members, I mean followers of Christ. Just stop asking questions. Is it a fun little prank? Is Mormon God actually Loki and he wants to see how many things he can get his followers to do? Like guys, I actually convinced them they can't drink coffee, but energy drinks are fine. Yeah, I didn't think that one would stick either, but this is hilarious. Yes, Loki is British because Tom Hiddleston. Thank you. Let's go back to that TikTok video we just watched and let's see what her response is to the valid criticism and backlash in the comments.
I recently shared a review a few days ago on the new garments, and while there has been so much support, so much love, there's also been a lot of negativity, not only from ex-members, but also from members. So I kind of wanted to talk about it. As a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, modesty has always been an importance to me and an importance in our religion in general. We were also taught that modesty did mean covering up. Along with modesty being a part of our behavior, our actions, and other things, we did focus a lot on modesty and covering up our bodies. While I do not think that there was intention to put shame on our bodies by covering them up, I do understand and validate the feelings of so many members who had to go through a time period of feeling like they were shamed for covering their body or not covering their bodies.
She said, I'm sorry that you feel shamed, but that was not the intention of modesty or garments. I'm sorry you feel that way is not an apology, but she's not the one who should be apologizing. This isn't on her. But instead of putting any blame directly on the church, she's putting it on individual members for feeling that way. Not only do I strongly disagree that the purpose of telling a woman to cover up is not shameful in nature, but there's so many receipts of the church directly shaming women and little girls for just existing in their bodies. Like the infamous disgusting talk from, once again, Dallin Oaks from about 20 years ago now, and I'm just realizing that young members like her may not even know about this talk due to their age. I don't know, do they still quote this in Sunday school? But in 2005, when I was 13 years old, he told us young women, who by the way are 12 to 17 years old, so children, why are we calling them young women? That's really fucked up. He's telling little girls that they become walking pornography by dressing immodestly.
And young women, please understand that if you dress immodestly, you are magnifying this problem by becoming pornography. to some of the men who see you.
Please tell me in detail how that is not intentionally shaming and victim blaming children into covering up so that schmedophiles won't get bad thoughts in their heads. Not the boys, he's telling this just to the girls. Our bodies are policed literally out of the womb, and this is not exclusive to religion, but it is amped up in religious spaces, including Mormonism. And this influencer, whose name is Vika, I think, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Vika says, "I'm sorry if you felt shamed by policies, but that's not doctrinal."
With the new garments being released in a sleeveless form, now showing our shoulders, there has been lots of talk about what modesty truly is the church changing? And part of me has the same questions, but what I do know is that the doctrine of Jesus Christ has not changed. Policies are always changing. Clear back when the church started, the garments were a totally different style. There are many things that were accepted back in the days that are not accepted now in 2025. So things like the garment changing is okay. And this does mean that we are moving forward and that we are receiving revelation for this dispensation and this time period.
She says policies are always changing and the garment style changing is a matter of policy. But then 2 seconds later in the same video, she says it's a matter of receiving new revelation from God. So is God in charge of policies or is it people? I know the answer, but my brain hurts just thinking about the cognitive dissonance that occurs in members' minds whenever the church changes something. It's revelation. Just kidding. It's just a man-made policy. Just kidding. Men don't make policies, Jesus does. Just kidding, they're not policies, they're commandments from God. And commandments are always changing. Just kidding, God's doctrine never changes. I think she may genuinely be unaware of how much has changed, and this is why you generally see a lot of the younger generation defending the church, because they haven't been through enough cycles of insanity yet to see the church's patterns and the way they lie to and manipulate their members and get them to do the same thing to the rest of the world. According to the church, the definition of doctrine is declared and interpreted by the president of the church and sustained by the first presidency and quorum of the 12 acting in unanimity. So when the first presidency of the church gives specific instructions in 1988 about how and why to wear a temple garment, that is doctrine. And if that changes, aka virtually disappears off of the church website and cherry-picked and not taught verbatim anymore, then the doctrine, by the definition of the church, has changed. Oh, well, she said the doctrine of Jesus Christ never changes, not the church. The church says there's no difference. They claim to be Christ's church and that his doctrine is their doctrine. If you want to get technical and only look at what Jesus said, he did not say anything about wearing religious garments in the Bible or in the Book of Mormon. Not a single thing. He did talk about selling things in the temple, and he got pretty mad about that, but Mormon church doesn't care about that part. Garments is a Joseph Smith teaching, just like most of Mormonism is. Let's finish her video and then I will rant some more.
And I want to just say that I understand that there was a shame culture. I understand that there was a lot of trauma while we were in a very thick modesty culture, teaching modesty to be a lot about covering up. And I really think that we have the opportunity now to look at things and say, hey, you know what? Things are changing. The church is seeing that maybe this is so much better for those in hotter climates. And this is such a great opportunity not to judge others based on what they're wearing. I love that in the Restraint for Youth, they say that they no longer want to give us yes and no answers. Before, I do think that sometimes we were living the law of Moses, where there were very strict rules, very strict guidelines, and that really was not healthy. Anyway, so to wrap up my thoughts, I do think that this is such a great opportunity to really focus on what modesty truly is, which is really coming to know who we are and whose we are.
First of all, the new garments are still very restrictive. She claims war is over, shame culture is no more, and it's not about modesty, it's a mindset. And the church solved all of that with a few inches. Look how not strict and cool the church is for allowing you to air out your armpits. garments. Wow. But you still gotta wear them. Changing the style is a baby step forward, but getting rid of them altogether would be the most liberating thing the church could do if you want to talk about what's healthy and not healthy for a religious organization. And saying that the church only did this for people in warmer climates, again, not making people wear them at all would be the most beneficial thing to members that live in warmer climates' health. And again, the church is directed by Jesus, and he makes their policies according to them. So you're telling me that Jesus just realized that people in warmer climates might not like wearing garments? He's from the Middle East. I think he knows how hot the sun can get. You're telling me he forgot about that until now? But okay, I'll play Delulu for a second. Let's pretend these garments have nothing to do with modesty, even though she uses these words simultaneously, and so does every other garment influencer I could find. Modest/garment friendly, modest/garment friendly, modest fashion, garment friendly fashion, Christian girl, hashtag LDS, hashtag Mormon. They're calling themselves Mormon again. I'm so proud. I found an Instagram account called Garment Friendly that says outfit inspo for modest girlies, and the first picture is someone in a crop top. Question mark? They have crop top garments now? Shit, I'm coming back. And what does Kendrick gotta do with this? Leave that man off of your underwear page. But I will play ball. The garments are actually all about Jesus and the covenants you make with him and God in the temple. I actually got into a little argument with my garment wearing family members about this. We're good now. We love each other. Their rebuttal was that the covenants you make in the temple have not changed, even if the garment does. So it doesn't matter what they look like. And that's all well and good if it were true. But it's not true. The temple covenants have also changed and do all the time. I made an entire video about the temple and discussed how I covenanted. That's not a word. In Mormon language, it's a word. I covenanted to my husband who did not exist, and I swore to listen to the counsel of this future imaginary hypothetical husband of mine. The exact verbiage I used in my endowment in 2015 said, "We will put the sisters under the covenant to obey the law of the Lord and to hearken to the counsel of her husband as her husband hearkens unto the counsel of the Father. Each of you bow your head and say yes." And if women went through the temple before 1990, they did not make a single covenant directly with God, only their husbands. The temple ceremony said, "We will put the sisters under covenant to obey the law of their husbands. You solemnly covenant and promise before God, angels, and these witnesses at this altar that you will each observe and keep the law of your husband and abide by his counsel in righteousness." Each of you bow your head and say yes. The law of the husband's covenant, it don't exist no more. They just yoinked out a whole covenant and said nothing. I don't know how else to interpret the word covenant other than covenant. The covenants women make in the temple have changed, along with many other things that are quite disturbing, and I go over them in my previous video if you are interested. But the reasons members don't know about every single change that's made in the temple is because you're not supposed to talk about the specifics of the temple outside of the temple, which is a really smart tactic for the church to use, because if people aren't talking about the changes, they can just pretend they never happened. And no one wants to break the rules and offend God by bringing it up. It's like if you're dating somebody who's cheating on you with a bunch of different people, but they told each one of them to keep their relationship a secret because people are going to attack their relationship and they don't understand their love, and people spread lies because they're jealous. So for whatever bullshit reasons and under false pretenses, those people keep the relationship quiet and never talk to each other about it. So the cheater is able to keep this big secret going. It's kind of like that. The chances of an active LDS person clicking and staying on my video the second I mention the temple ceremony is slim to none. Me discussing past or current temple ceremonies is considered anti-Mormon material. Make that make sense. So now that all the cool people are here, what does the temple covenant specifically say about garments? Brother/sister blank, under proper authority, the garment placed upon you is now authorized and is to be worn throughout your life. It represents the garment given to Adam when he was found naked in the Garden of Eden and is called the garment of the holy priesthood. Inasmuch as you do not defile it, but are true and faithful to your covenants, it will be a shield and a protection to you against the power of the destroyer until you have finished finish your work here on earth. So nothing specifically about Jesus at all. And then when you get to the veil in the temple, which is essentially just a giant curtain, there are markings in it that are the same markings on your garments. And this is the only time they will be explained to you, and good luck because you're not able to write anything down. The mark of the square is on the right breast, suggesting exactness in honoring your covenants. The mark of the compass, which how the fuck does that look anything like a compass? You didn't even try, is on the left chesticle and represents an undeviating course to eternal life and a reminder that desires are to be kept within the bounds the Lord has set. Apparently, I've never seen the Masonic compass before because, yep, that's definitely what it looks like. And there's the Masonic square. That's so crazy that Joseph Smith, who was also a Mason, thought of the same thing at the same time. Life is full of coincidences. The navel mark, which is obviously over your belly button, suggests the need of constant nourishment to the body and spirit. And the knee mark on the right leg of the garment is a reminder that every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess that Jesus is the Christ. We found it, folks. The one link to Jesus. Took us a while to get there. And that's what's so hard to understand about the temple unless you have been, is how not Christ focused it is, which adds up with how the church conducts itself. Anyways, let's talk about that nick on the knee for a moment. In Masonic rituals back in the 1800s, they took the Masonic compass or another sharp object and they would cut into the actual skin, leaving a scar. Coincidentally, in the 1800s, we have several documented accounts of this occurring in the Mormon temple. In the autobiography, 15 Years Among the Mormons, and in the biography, No Man Knows My History, they both say that scissors were used to cut the marks in the garment as well as cut an actual mark in their skin above the right knee. But this practice was often omitted due to complaints by the women. Once again, women be knowing. I learned about this from Julia from Analyzing Mormonism, who is an amazing researcher and should be an honorary historian at this point, so go check her out, give her a follow. But the one mark on the garment that is a reminder of Jesus Christ is yet another stolen Masonic ritual that initially had nothing to do with Jesus. Incredible. Hot take, I think you could still remember Jesus without doing all of that. In fact, wearing garments doesn't seem to have an impact on many Mormons and how Christ-like they behave. If you have to try that hard to remember to be a good person, you're probably not a good person. Just my 2 cents. I want to focus on another comment that irked me. People criticize the church for remaining the same and then criticize for changing. Can't win. No. The criticism has always been that the church changes constantly and pretends it doesn't. With each new generation born into the church comes social change, which they resist heavily at first, eventually cave into, and then call it revelation. Most of the changes are so small over time. It's like a frog being boiled in water and the temperature slowly turns up so they don't notice. Jeffrey Holland, a current apostle of the Mormon Church, described this very well.
And culturally, here's kind of what happens. The world is here, and we're more conservative here, and we're not going to do what the world does, live together or never get married or whatever. But as the world progresses, cultures change. They go here, and then we go here, and then they go here, and we go here, and before long, you look up, and we're perilously close where we would never have thought to be before. So let's stay fixed on gospel principles and not cultural issues and not the societal commitments of the time. I've said too much.
This might be the first time I've seen this melting man be truthful about anything. Yes, the church is always behind the times. That seems to be the point of most religions, is to just hate change and progress in society, and they always begrudgingly catch up decades later. I'm not criticizing the church for changing. I'm criticizing them for being against that change in the first place. this. I can't find the comment, but someone said it perfectly, saying today's blasphemy is tomorrow's revelation. And that might just be my first tattoo on my body, which ironically enough is also not a big deal anymore. When I was growing up in the church, tattoos, double pierced ears, watching rated R movies, and drinking caffeine were all big no-nos. And now they're all fine, and those things were all just policy, which is great. It was also fine when I was a teenager, and y'all were just too stubborn to admit it. Today, something is depraved and immoral, and tomorrow, it's not a big deal and it never has been. You're not remembering correctly. No accountability, no apologies, nothing. And that's why people are upset. So we've gone from a culture of, why are you talking about my underwear? That's weird, to, here's my underwear, guys, let's talk about it. One could argue, well, you're asking the church for more transparency and less secrecy, so here it is. Garments aren't weird and secretive. They're religious clothing like the nun's habit, the priest's cassock, the Jewish prayer shawl, the Muslim skull cap, the saffron robes of the Buddhist monk. And the church says that not all religious vestments are on public display. Some are only seen in places of worship. Obviously, one of the many missing links between these comparisons is that all of these religious garments can be seen visibly, either as their clothing or on top of their clothing. And I was very interested to see if any other religions require their members to wear sacred undergarments. The closest thing that I could find is the Sikh religion and an undergarment called the kashera. They look similar to boxer briefs, are pretty short and loose, and are white to represent modesty and chastity. This Sikh woman even talks about how they wear it while they shower.
How does a Sikh have a shower? Does my kashera have to stay on both legs the entire shower, or can I tie it to one leg? Wear your kashera with your nala, tie it properly, and you have your shower. Once you're done with your shower, you wipe your body, loosen your nala, and you take out the wet kashera from one leg, wipe your leg, and wear the dry kashera. Then remove the wet kashera from the other leg. You can wipe your leg and then wear the dry kashera and tie your nala and so on.
But not all Sikhs wear the kashera, as Sikhism has several groups underneath it, all with differing codes of conduct, sort of like how Christianity has branched off into a million different groups. So the Sikhs that wear the kashera usually have been initiated or baptized into the Khalsa group, who wear the 5 kakars or the 5 Ks. And I have been listening to how these are pronounced over and over again, so I am trying my best, but I apologize if I say them wrong or if I sound stupid. But the 5 Ks are the kara, or a steel bracelet, the kesh, or uncut hair, the kanga, a wooden comb, the kashera, the undergarment, and the kirpan, a ceremonial sword. And they all represent tenets of their faith. The sword represents standing up for injustice and protecting the oppressed. And that is so fucking cool, and I am obsessed with that. But even if you are not officially initiated or baptized into the Khalsa, otherwise known as an Amritdhari Sikh, you can still choose to wear the kashera.
Can you wear a kashera if you are not an Amritdhari? 100% yes. Look, we all start somewhere. So a lot of Punjabis culturally start with a kara from a young age, and any type of kara. They start with a kara from young age because that's what the parents say. You're a Sikh, wear a kara. And then as you grow and you start learning about Sikhi, then you're like, oh, there's a kachera, there's a ganga, there's a kirpan, etc. So why don't you just try and get one made for yourself, or get one made that's already in the Gurdwara side, but you can purchase one and see how you feel. Put it on underneath your jeans. You might need to put it up here, or get like straightened down, or however you do it. Like, get comfortable. Just try it out. Why not? We all start somewhere. Okay, bye.
I also found a TikTok where a man is doing a skit about his sibling stealing his kashera, and he even shows him wearing it. But the biggest difference between Sikh garments and Mormon garments is Sikhs do not have clergy members monitoring how often you wear them. There are religious leaders called granti who can be male or female, and they function more as a Christian preacher would, and they are not there to discipline other Sikhs. There's no middle-aged man asking you about your underwear and telling you not to worship in their temple because you're not wearing them properly. In fact, their temples, called gurdwaras, are also their place of worship where services are held multiple times a day, every day, and anyone is welcome. Anyone. And they actually give out free meals after every single service.
The reason why free food is given at our Gurdwara Sahib is because everyone should be entitled to a free meal. Nobody should ever go with an empty stomach in this world. The langar is made by volunteers, and if it's a big Gurdwara Sahib, then a chef may help out as well.
Imagine that, a religion actually trying to help and serve other people. I found out that there are a couple in Utah and I got really excited because I kind of want to go and check it out. I don't think I have what it takes to become a Sikh because of the whole chastity and vegan thing. I don't have the emotional bandwidth to take that on right now, but I really respect any religion whose actions match their beliefs. And not unlike other religions, there are still cultural issues and infighting among the Sikh members. I found this Reddit thread started by someone speaking out against Sikh families who they say are being torn apart because some of their family members don't want to practice their faith in the way that they do. They write, so many born Sikhs stray away from Sikhi because of their own parents, and many Sikhs are suffering just because one decision that doesn't match the parents' agenda is quickly met with anger and threats. Those who are being harassed and pushed to be married by a certain age against their will, and or those who are told you can only marry someone that fits the parents' requirements, not their own, continue to come here because they feel hopeless and worthless. My parents care more about me finding someone they like, not someone I love. My parents care about me sullying their name more than my happiness. LGBTQ plus Sikhs saying their family has told them if you associate with them, don't bother coming home. Viewing people of LGBTQ as disgusting, pushing them into a place where they express things like, I feel like I should have never been born. Hey, all of this sounds super duper familiar to me. I don't know about the rest of you that grew up religious. Being alienated by your community, being judged by your own parents, being disowned because of the person you love. It's the entire doctrine versus culture argument all over again. And every religion has levels of this. I found a TikTok video of a Muslim influencer criticizing other Muslim influencers for removing their hijab. This is a different religion, by the way. This is not the Sikh religion, this is Islam.
I'm seeing a lot of influencers take off their hijab recently. First off, I'm not tolerating any hate comments towards any girls. Respectfully, I will block you. I do want to say, like, obviously it's your own personal journey and the hijab is your personal thing, but as like an influencer online, you have a platform and you have a reach, and a lot of young Muslim girls follow these people. And I've seen like so many comments and so many videos online of people talking about how much these people, like, I guess they help them wear the hijab initially, so seeing them take it off is almost like demotivating to them, and it makes them want to take it off. Like, it kind of normalizes it too. And I just want to say to all the young girls out there, like, I know it's difficult, especially when you're seeing like people that you followed for so long and you were taking inspiration from take off the hijab. If you're already having those thoughts, like, it can be difficult. But please remember why you're doing it. It's not for other people. Like, no matter what the rest of the world is doing, at the end of the day, you're doing it for Allah. You're not doing it for anyone else. Just a reminder to everyone to not idolize people online. Like, I know it's easy to see people online and kind of like get inspiration from them is one thing, but please don't idolize people online and be influenced by everything they do. Like, even me, I don't wear the hijab properly, but I want you guys to have like your own mind and actually think about things. And if it does affect you in any way, or like you can sense that it's influencing you, it's okay to unfollow people or like stop consuming their content. You don't have to watch their videos. If you are struggling with the hijab, just try not to look at the people around you or like get influence from the people around you or people online, because at the end of the day, they're just people too, and they're also on their own journey.
Let's read the comments. Isn't it their choice? Thought it was their choice. Shouldn't this be a personal choice? If they are happy, then that's all that matters. Literally, it's becoming a trend. Damn, so this is literally the comment section of every single Mormon garment video. The arguments are exactly the same. It's your choice. No, it's not, you heathen. You don't understand the doctrine. No, you don't understand the doctrine. I agree that it is a personal choice what clothing you wear. I couldn't give a shit about fuck if you wear garments or not. not, if you wear a hijab or not. Videos like this piss me off. Stop telling other people, more specifically, stop telling other women what to do with their bodies. It is so harmful and degrading and exhausting. And it's always on the shoulders of women. I can't find videos of men debating modesty because it is a concept created exclusively for women. Yes, one definition of the word modesty is humility and unpretentiousness. And patriarchal religions have turned that into women need to cover up their bodies because when they don't, it's distracting. It's unvirtuous. And if you're a Christian, Jesus recommends you pluck your fucking eyes out. Your faith, your religion, your spiritual beliefs are supposed to be personal, and you are allowed to use the World Wide Web to share those beliefs. But if you are using the internet to shame other members of your faith for not living it the way you are making the world a worse place. If your religion has a system to police its own members and you actively participate in that policing, your religion is no longer between you and your deity. It is between you and your leaders and your neighbors. And any religion that gatekeeps you from your God and puts a bunch of red tape between you and them, whether it's clothing or money or your gender identity or sexuality, that's not a religion. That's a crock of shit. I don't know how to end this, so I'm just going to end it. Researching the Sikh religion was really fascinating, and I hate when people say, oh my God, you go so hard on Mormons, you go so hard on Christianity, you would never do that with it. There is no religion that is above me criticizing it. I don't care. Say goodbye to Trixie and Rexy. Shout out to Girls Camp Podcast for this sick tank top, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye. The fuck is in my eye? Fucking Jesus, fuck.